In a world where information seems to travel at the speed of light and traffic at a snail's pace, where the agenda of those at the helm doesn't always reflect the pressures on the streets, where the rubber hits the road, where there's queue of issues needing to be interrogated in the name of speaking truth to power.
Welcome to a place at the table,
where we set the agenda,
table the issues that matter to you,
and invite you to take a seat at the table.
Welcome to a place at the table. They say repetition is good for the soul, but at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I will be saying, give it a rest, Kemi.
Luca, is repetition really good for the soul? I wonder. Well, I'll be speaking on Nepo and Lapo babies. If this news to you, keep listening. Glad you could take your seat at the table, Itoro.
Glad to be here, Bright. So broken record or not, I'll keep harping on this issue until there is a change. My focus is on our homes. Are there traps for children where there ought to be a heaven? So let's go.
Welcome, Ituro. First of all, I shudder to think about what our homes are becoming nowadays. However, we face the issues head on at the table. I'll be confronting the issue of settlers, citizens, and indigenes in Nigeria.
There's certainly no turning back on the issues that matter to us. I've raised it once, and I'm back to speak on the Scott Iguma versus PWAN issue, and I'm saying no Nigerian is better than another Nigerian.
You would think that was a given, Elsie. But as you said, we keep saying it so that even the deaf will have no excuse. When British Nigerian author Nels Abbey described Kemi Badenoch as the black face of white supremacy, I initially felt the remark was a little harsh. But after hearing her recent comments claiming our children cannot be Nigerian citizens because of our gender, I'm beginning to wonder if that quote should be seen less as satire and more as an uncomfortable truth. For those who missed it, while trying to contrast the immigration policies of Nigeria and Britain, Kemi told Farid Zakari of CNN that it's virtually impossible to get Nigerian citizen. I have that citizenship by virtue of my parents. I can't give it to my children because I'm a woman. Kemi, I know you are the Conservative Party leader in the UK, and I know you think part of your JD to retain power is to pander to the right of your party. But you've got to give this a rest. Quite frankly, your obsession with using Nigeria to raise your political profile is beginning to look ridiculous. It's not just the pettiness of your attack on Nigeria or your attempt to rewrite history with your revisionist rhetoric or colonialism. It's now the case of outright lies and falsehood. Contrary to your claim, Section 25(1)(c) of the Nigerian Constitution states that a person born outside the country is a citizen of Nigeria if either of their parents is Nigerian. A simple Google search will have saved you the embarrassment of making such a blatantly false statement. The fact is this: citizenship by descent is not gender restricted in Nigeria. Kemi's attempt to use a gender trope is particularly dangerous because it falsely accuses Nigeria of systemic sexism where it doesn't exist, harms the fight for genuine gender equality, and distorts public perception, especially coming from a high-profile black woman. It can also damage public understanding, perpetuate myth, and entrench harmful biases against Nigeria. She ought to know better. I will end this the same way I ended my December 2024 monologue to her, titled History Lessons for the Tory Leader. May we not have to sell our souls in pursuit of what is ephemeral.
I guess I'll have to speak this one in Yoruba. Hopefully she'll still understand Yoruba. Say, "Ye makparo." You can do all these things, and I mean, when it comes to politics, there's a lot that you can use that, or at least, even if it doesn't make us look good, we would say, it's true. Let's help ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. But let's not bring lies into this, because this was just so unnecessary. You said it's beginning to look ridiculous. I think it started looking ridiculous like months ago. And then there's a part that I'm not going to agree with, where you said Kemi's attempts to use a gender trope is particularly dangerous because it falsely accuses Nigeria of systemic sexism. Yeah. It's not false, really. Nigeria has systemic sexism, right? Mm-hmm. We hope that it will get better, because this conversation also brought up the conversation around marital, what's it called now? Marital passing of citizenship based on marriage, right? So from what I read or what I heard, if a foreign man marries a Nigerian woman, it's almost impossible or very difficult for the man to become a citizen. But however, if it's the other way around, it's sort of easier for the woman to become a citizen. There's other laws too that we've been talking about in terms of even child custody, name change and things. And we're hoping that the immigration laws and the citizenship laws would be revisited and rearranged.
So I didn't say that sexism doesn't exist, but in that particular context that she's talking about, it
so if we
doesn't
have 10
exist.
contexts and it just not existing in one,
Yeah,
do we really have a
so the
passport?
context you are talking about, in fact, that her husband cannot claim Nigerian citizenship, that is a legit.
That's true.
That's true.
Yes.
Okay, but in the context that she's saying that
She's
our
saying that children
cannot.
I get the context, absolutely. I'm just saying that
doesn't exist. Sexism doesn't exist.
And which is why I'm asking, if you say there are 10 issues that can be tied to gender, and just one is the only one you can claim to say sexism is not existing there.
In that context,
it still means that we are still in a sexism, systemic sexism.
No
That's
doubt.
what I'm saying.
Even if we're looking at it within that same context, we can say that there's, systemic sexism, because she was talking about the fact that it's difficult to get Nigerian citizenship. Yes, it's not true that children cannot have citizenship by virtue of their parents. But like I already said, the entire system itself is sexist in nature. There are systemic barriers that women face, even in the whole context of citizenship. She has mentioned one, but even within, we have to extend it a little bit further to place of origin. Indigeneship in Nigeria, especially for a married woman that marries outside her state. Where does she come from? Where her father's state of origin says she's been married out. Her husband's state of origin says she's not from our place. So we have a lot of married women, including me, speaking from experience, that are stateless. They don't have a state. So I'm happy that this discussion is going on. It opens up the opportunity to discuss issues of citizenship, indigeneship, and all that for Nigerian women. I went to my my state liaison office to get certificate of origin. I think I wanted to renew my passport or something, and I was told I was not from my state anymore. I should go to my husband's state of origin to get a certificate of origin. And I told them, this is the kind of war I like fighting. Bring it on, because I cannot go to my husband's state of origin. I'm not from there. I'm married to my husband. I'm married, and my husband comes from that particular state. So when you deny me the opportunity of, my state of origin by virtue of marriage, that's, by extension what Kemi is talking about. There are systemic barriers that render women, that are not beneficial to women. And for me, this is an opportunity for us to talk about it.
Being a political strategist, Kemi's move, everything she says is a strategy to be talked about.
Yeah.
We live in a world right now where it doesn't matter what the context of the conversation is, you just need to be talked about to be relevant, whether it's good or bad. Trump made CNN like a reality TV show. Like, I love to watch CNN now because when we start talking about Trump, it's like, oh my God, it has to be entertaining, right? That is exactly what I'm talking about. She is using Nigeria because Nigeria is the loudest when it comes to having to defend themselves. We know how to defend ourselves.
Media voice.
We don't know how to defend. We don't know how to defend our country, but we cannot defend our country against the people that are making it, that are destroying it. But anybody else say anything, everybody outside say anything, about us or against us, look at AFCON, you're dead.
Game on.
Don't touch Nigerians. No. And if you want to blow a line as a foreigner, talk about Nigeria. Nigerian men are the best men. Everybody's good. You're going to blow up.
Nigerian jollof is the best.
Do you understand? It's a strategy. If I was a strategist, that's exactly everything she's doing. Using children, using her citizenship, talking bad about Nigeria.
So,
all of that.
The truth doesn't matter.
It's a move. No, it's a move. But at the same time, we could focus on the topic, right? Should we all agree and say if a woman gets married to a man, automatically she has to move to become a citizenship of, or an origin of where that man is from, and that's the reason why that's like that? Or have we moved to a world where everybody should be able to own where they come from, regardless of marriage?
Well, this is a woman who's been given names here and there. Can be bad enough, lettuce, house Negro, and all of that. But I wouldn't throw her entirely under the bus. I would toe the line of Bright to say that this is just a strategy. Unfortunately, this is very different from the other non-British, I put that in quote, personalities that we've seen in Britain, that she's chosen to use Nigeria as a strategy. Sad, but as Bright said, anything Nigerian catches on everywhere. Having said that, if we take a look at the First Lady of Ondo State, Betty Akeredolu, you'll recall that at a time she wanted to run for office in her home state, and she was sent back that, no, you do not belong here anymore. The same thing with Bianca. At some point, she wasn't allowed to do anything other than where she was from. In Yoruba land, I don't think that is done. They still, you can still come back and do something in your father's state, in your state of origin, not your husband's, you know. But having said that also, it's unfortunate that she said that at CNN. I think she may have mixed up the facts. And the good thing is it was CNN, and they would have fact-checked her. And then it's made global news. I will reiterate that it is the husbands that cannot get Nigerian citizenship, not the children. And it reiterates what Nigerian women have agitated for in the last 2 years. We've been saying this is not right. If you as a man came into Nigeria and married a woman, you would find it hard to become a citizen. But if it was a Nigerian man who went to Singapore, for instance, it is so easy to make that woman a Nigerian. And this is where we're talking about systemic sexism. It must change even as we continue to review the Constitution presently.
Our voice is our power. We need to count the cost of speaking to please others.
We speak out from a place of conviction. You could say it's how we take ownership of our choices. Lately online, everyone is talking about Nepo and Lapo babies, which means privileged and less privileged kids. It's a trend, but it's also a mirror. Some people are born into open doors, others born into walls. And none of us ever got to choose which one we arrived through. I sat with myself recently, looking at my lows, looking at patterns in my life that feels like a stumbling block. And I started asking, where did this even come from? I know I never chose them. In fact, I didn't choose to be created. I didn't choose my parents, my environment, my culture, and even my starting point. Yet, those decisions made by others shaped how I think, how I act, and even how I dream. And then one day, I'm 15, and suddenly, you're handed the responsibility to choose. And everyone expects you to choose right, do right, be perfect, without anyone considering that much of what you're made of is built on choices that were never yours. You choose a career, but the choice was shaped by your upbringing, environment, fears, culture, or what your parents expected. You choose who to date or trust, but your attachment style may have been shaped by trauma or childhood experiences. You choose to chase success, but maybe because society taught you that your worth depends on your achievement. You're making decisions, but the lens through which you see your options was handed to you. As Carl Jones said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So, to the Lapo babies, don't be hard on yourself. You may not have chosen the foundation, but you can choose the renovation. You can feed your mind with better inputs. Step into spaces that challenge you and slowly rewrite the patterns that were handed down to you. Because while none of us chose how our story began, we each have the power to choose how it continues. And that is where freedom really starts. Whether you started as a Nepo or Lapo baby, your future isn't about where you began. It's about the choices you rebuild from within and the courage to rewrite your own script.
Word.
You're supposed to drop your mic.
Word.
Like, just drop the mic.
Remove it and drop it.
To be honest, this is a fantastic monologue. It's a mirror, just as you've said, it's profound, it's humbling, you know, just sitting down, listening to you. Profound thoughts about patterns, about backgrounds, and that line about not choosing to be created or belonging to a particular family or nation resonates deeply, because you just found, sometimes I say to myself, where are we from? We just find ourselves here, and we literally perform all through our lives, you know, to conform to this or that, you know. You choose who to date, but your attachment style may have been shaped by trauma or childhood experiences. I mean, it's just check. You were hitting the right spots and speaking to millions of people in this monologue. And yes, indeed, society teaches us that our worth depends on our achievements. And so what if you do not have the ladder to take you to that point where you achieve something worthy of the society's notice? And that reminds me, and that reminds me of a man I follow on LinkedIn. His name is Dr. Tunde Okewale. This man defied the odds to be the first in his family to go to university in the UK. He's black. And while he was at it, he juggled many jobs. If you follow this man on LinkedIn, is exactly what you've, you know, talked about. A Lapo baby who rose through from extreme poverty to where he is, and he speaks about it all the time, unashamedly, authentically. So I think this is the reason why a lot of us perform. We keep performing to please. You know, we keep performing to belong. We keep performing to just do, to be acknowledged, and it can be a rat race at the end of the day that is eating at our souls.
For context, Nepo means never-ending possibilities and opportunities. So if you're born into a family that has never-ending possibilities, so the rich kids, right? While Lapo means lack of access, privilege, and opportunities.
Speaking English, because Twitter people have decided to give it a different name, right? Nepo is nepotism. Lapo microfinance.
I thought you were going to say lapotism.
No, you know Lapo, you know how they give loans.
The microfinance.
You see them every week. They are carrying some families to this just to redeem the loans and all of that. So it's not a good experience. But yeah, some people have come out of that and have done something for themselves. Life is a mystery. A lot happens. As much as we of course we like to believe that we have choices, right? I also think that there's fate and there is a path, and then there is, in fact, there's a post published on my blog in 2021 called Spiritual Algorithm. Now that's also
spiritual algorithm.
So that took into context what you're trying to say in terms of how our choices sort of shape. You know how you have Google and Facebook algorithm and how your timeline is curated based off of that and what you like. You know, it also speaks to how the choices you have made and how you've been brought up will decide how you recognize opportunity and how you maximize this opportunity. Whether you would say, this one is a bad opportunity for me, or it's a good opportunity for me. So all these things come together to play. But there's also a book I read, I think I mentioned that to you earlier, called Outlier by Malcolm Gladwell. He broke some of these things down in a very interesting way. But I think that for me, there isn't much to be added than to tell people whether you are a Nepo baby or a Lapo baby. I know you want to ask me which one am I, right? I think that for...
Are you a Lepo baby?
I think I've always been in between.
What is the in-between then?
In between, in the sense that you cannot classify me as a
Nepo.
Lapo or Nepo, right?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, I've always had a soft landing, but I won't say I have the Nepo soft landing. And I never suffer Lapo suffer. You know, something like that.
Yeah, I can get it. I think I'm kind of the same.
Well,
I think I'm in the middle of both Nepo and Lapo.
So I would say that wherever you find yourself, like you have said, please look for your privileges, find a way to maximize it, because whatever your situation is, there's really something that you can step on and have an open mind. Don't play the victim mindset, because once you have that mindset, it almost ruins everything. Right?
When this conversation came up on Twitter, I tweeted on my timeline that you don't have to be the son or daughter of a billionaire to be privileged. Privilege is relative. A lot of times people like to look at privilege from the point of view of means. And I share my own story about it. This is what I tell my kids. I'm privileged to be the son of my father, who was the first son of his father, who had 5 wives and 20-something children. He had to struggle for attention, and there was not enough to go around. But his father ensured that he paid his way to secondary school. And my father took over from there, worked hard, got himself into university, and eventually made a name for himself. Now, I'm privileged to be the son of my father, who went beyond funding our secondary school education to making sure that we all go to the universities. Okay, we're not rich, but we're privileged to be in that position. And so I tell my kids, by being a daughter and son of Yinka Ogunobi, you're privileged.
Where you said you choose who to date or trust, but your attachment style may have been shaped by trauma or childhood experiences. And from the work that I do, I have seen how people's adulthood is shaped by the childhood trauma and experiences that they suffered. If a child was sexually abused and there's no intervention to build that child, and the child did not have an opportunity to visit a therapist and undergo healing, that person's path of who to date, who to trust, where to go, and which doors to open become really limited because of that childhood experience. And so it's true that there are lots of things that happen outside our control that shape us. And because of that experience, you are led in one direction. But on the other hand, it's also true that we can decide and say, look, we are being led this way because of experience, but I don't have to be led this way
anymore.
And yes, I don't have to be defined by the experiences that I had as a child. And so we can decide to make those changes on our own. And that's why when people say, oh, that's how my father was, that's how my mother was, that's how I was brought up. Those things, don't resonate with me, because you could make changes. Whether you are even within the Lapo baby segment, there are privileges. Some are more privileged than others. So there's the Lapo. Okay, so thank you very much. So they need to recognize that privilege, and they should not use that to weaponize. Shouldn't weaponize their privilege or use that to also entrench poverty on the Lapo babies. So that's what that's.
Our utterances and even choices will come back to judge us. Some to their vindication, and others to their condemnation. Which category do you fall under? Whatever category, choose wisely.
When it comes to advocating for the safety of the vulnerable in our midst, I'm happy to go on record anytime, any day. I choose to speak out. We often speak of family as a refuge, a sacred place where love, protection, and belonging are guaranteed. It is meant to be a sanctuary, the first choice of trust and support in our lives. But what happens when the very space becomes the site of trauma? When the people children are meant to trust the most, parents, uncles, cousins, even siblings become the perpetrators of sexual abuse. The painful reality for many children is that the family is not a safe haven. It is a trap, a place where silence hides pain, where abuse is excused in the name of culture or loyalty, or where victims are told to endure rather than escape. In 2024, 600 cases of child sexual abuse were reported at the Mirabel Center. The youngest client, a 3-month-old baby, abused by her father. In its 2024 report, the Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency of Lagos State reported 281 cases of defilement, attempted sexual assault, and child molestation. This is just a tip of the iceberg, as many cases are not reported, not because the abuse did not happen, but because families choose to hide it. Don't disgrace the family name. Words like this silence the children, leaving them to suffer in shame, confusion, and betrayal. But silence does not protect the child. Silence protects the abuser. Speaking out helps to hold the perpetrators accountable and the survivors to seek justice. Speaking out enables the survivor to get professional help to deal with the trauma of sexual abuse. Speaking out provides the evidence needed to create awareness, change laws, and provide support services to the survivor and the family. Speaking out may save the life of that child. Speak out, because every child deserves a safe haven.
Topics like this are very touching to me, because it's one thing where it kind of ties into my advocacy, where most of the decisions that you make are not yours. You're brought into a family where the father is probably has mental issues, right? Because any father in their right mind will want to sleep or have sexual intercourse with a 3-month-old. You are crazy. You're not crazy. There's something beyond crazy. That's what you are. Right? You're not normal. So first question is, how would that child even know and understand if what is being done is good or bad? Their brain has not even been shaped enough to understand the difference.
Yeah.
Who are they going to tell? Like, tell what? Exactly. Right? Or the 4 years old, or the 5 years old, or the 6, even the 10. They might have conversation, but do they know what's happening? Right? So, as much as I understand that speaking out is important, we need to find other ways to solve this problem outside speaking out. Because like you said in your advocacy, people would say, don't disgrace the family. If you put it out there, it's your name. Your children would have that stigma. And so they keep it within the family. They keep it, not even within the inner family. So sometimes it doesn't even go out to the extended family, because people do not have the voice. Most of the young people don't have that voice. They don't even understand what is happening. So my question would be, how do we create systems and structures to even avoid that in the first place, knowing the fact that some people are not able to voice what's going on?
Personally, I believe that when you talk about not being mentally sound, that is an excuse to escape, the consequences of your action. So I'm abusing a 3-month-old baby, and I said, I'm not mentally sound. So I'm not held accountable for that violation. Legally. And so I go away.
Go away to where?
No, but I think
you go to a mental institution. They drop you in a place where you can never interact with human beings again.
Which is the one I don't agree with. I think that you can acknowledge the mental health issues. However, you will still bear the consequences of your action.
Yes.
The fact that we know that, or we are recognizing that for you to do this, you must be mentally disturbed.
Definitely.
This is not even just crazy. You're highly, I'm looking for the appropriate word.
You're not normal.
Then it doesn't remove the consequences that you have to serve for what you have done. I think that's where we need to look at it from.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, the law says so. The law has to change. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. We need to keep speaking out. I mean, we're speaking out. People are speaking. You said something about system. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's okay. I think I will keep sounding. Our law enforcement agencies, I say most of these things really start from them in terms of how they take in, analyze, talk to, and take on the issues when it comes to them. I know the last time Kate said that there are now tables of
gender desk,
family support units.
How effective are they? So aside from those now put on that gender desk the larger police force, because the desk is not outside. When it happens to someone and the person runs out and runs to a policeman, is that policeman or woman,
Yeah.
are they equipped enough to know the kind of response they should give, the kind of help they should prefer, who they should be calling? Big shout out to Mirabel Center. They've been there for a very long time, and it's been a lot of work. Thank you for what is happening at Mirabel Center.
Thank you.
I looked at the statistics that you gave. In 2024, you had 600 cases, just one organization. The DSVA, that's the Lagos State Domestic Violence Agency, right? Also had 281 cases. We have organizations such as yours scattered across Nigeria. I cannot begin to imagine the statistics from each of them and aggregating all together what we are dealing with in our homes. Having said that, you said something, and I think it's words on marble. You said silence protects the abuser, it doesn't protect the child. This week, I watched a documentary on News Central about Victory, who was raped, and the abuser had his way with the police and the law, to the extent that it is the family of the abused, the victim, who have gone through extreme violation of their rights. I sat at home watching, stupefied, the extent of human rights abuse on the family of Victory, the young teenage girl who was abused. And so what you said about silence hiding pain in families, and families in this century still wanting to protect the abuser against the abused, resonates with me strongly. And I just want to appeal to all of us at home. Is your home a safe haven?
Thank you.
How are you contributing to the trauma that Lapo child of yours will go through life? Think about it, and let's stop being silent about these abusers.
Every time we bring this topic to the table, because it's important, the fact that we should have a society where the vulnerable are protected, especially from abuse. And we should have a society where we can speak out publicly against these things. And what we're doing, it's part of that whole speaking out experience. Last week, we found out that when we did a survey of how many people have heard about the VAP Act, we found out that the majority of Nigerians don't even know of the existence of the VAP Act. They're not even aware of it. Not to mention about what kind of service or support that they can get. And we talked about awareness. There needs to be a lot of awareness, okay? At the national level, at the subnational, especially at the subnational level. The local government level, the community level, the church level, the mosque level, everywhere. People need to know that there are SAC centers available for them. I had a personal experience with a friend's wife who was abused. That was my first time of actually knowing that there are centers where an abused woman can go to and get protection. I didn't know. My wife is in the whole gender thing, so she was the one that managed it. And it was eye-opening for me that if women know that there are places for them, shelters, safe havens for them that they can go to, would it encourage them to speak out? Yes. But the reality is that they don't know. And the closest safe haven they can go to is their families. And if the family says, let's keep it on the low, let's keep it
You can't disgrace this family.
They won't do anything.
Every child deserves a safe haven. As adults, we know the value of this in shaping the people we are today.
We reap what we sow, so too we must exist in the society we have invested in or neglected, for better, for worse. Honorable Benjamin Kalu, Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, sponsored a controversial Indigeneship Bill that seeks to grant indigene status for any Nigerian born in a state or who has lived there for over 10 years with good conduct. It was rejected by the discerning assembly. At the ongoing constitutional review, Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State brought it back to national consciousness by saying indigeneity will foster inclusiveness and a sense of belonging among Nigerians. I think that's a deceitful statement meant to lead this country into war, and I'm calling it out. Chief Obafemi Awolowo, in his book, Thoughts on the Nigerian Constitution, said, and I quote, "If you examine the structure of Switzerland, you'll find that the religious, linguistic, and other differences have dictated a federal constitution. Such a federal structure has ensured peace and progress for the Swiss." Already, Nigeria is witnessing tensions where outsiders seek to dominate aboriginal populations. In Lagos, migrants call Lagos no man's land, challenging Yoruba political control and threatening chaos. In the Middle Belt, thousands have been massacred as ethnic militias seize lands from indigenous peoples. In Warri, migrants, despite court rulings recognizing them as tenants, still seek to usurp Shekiri lands and political power there. Other indigenous peoples in Akwa Ibom, Ondo, and Edo are also pushing back. And according to Lord of Warri, an Ishekiri activist and historian on X, the proposed indigenization would allow large tribes to seize control of minority lands by sheer numbers. They will be electing local government chairmen and kings over lands their ancestors never owned. Minority ethnic groups will be annihilated within a century, politically and culturally. Bloody conflicts will dot the nation as indigenous groups begin to resist the invasion. Our fragile federal balance will be destroyed. Why? Because every state will be turned into a battlefield between host communities and legally empowered settlers. So, Governor Hope Uzodinma will take his family out of the country for safety when the consequences of what he's proposing balloons. Let me say it as it is. Governor Uzodinma is couching bloodshed in beautiful words. So I tell you, Nigeria, wake up. Indigenization is warmongering. Do not let it sneak into Nigeria's constitution.
Okay.
Yeah, this is.
So I think this is sensitive and complex.
Like, okay.
All right, let me lay the foundation.
I will lay foundation. I beg. Skyscraper level foundation.
Very important.
Not bungalow, because this one there.
Oh, deep go.
And it's not black or white, it's nuanced. Those who want to claim to be indigents or the right to be indigents, they have a valid point when you look at certain context, for instance, taxation. So I took myself as an example. I am born in Lagos, but I'm originally, ancestrally from Remo, Shagamu in Ogun State. I can claim to be from Shagamu. I can also claim to be from Lagos because I was born in Lagos. I schooled in Lagos, I've worked in Lagos, I've paid my taxes in Lagos. And Lagos State government collects my taxes every month, all right?
And Citizenship.
So they collect my taxes every month. And so if I pay to the Lagos State government every month, don't I have a right to stake certain, claims as an indigene in Lagos? And I think that is valid. However, is it valid enough to state that Lagos is a no man's land? No. Lagos belongs to the Aworis. Everybody knows that. That's their ancestral home, and we have to recognize that. So there has to be a balance in this conversation. And that's my point. And so those who want to claim I think that there are standards that we can put down. That if you have economically, culturally, enhanced where you settled in, I think you can make a claim, a case, okay, to be considered an indigene. If, however, you don't have that, you're just coming to say, okay, because we're here in large numbers, and I just want to stake a claim. I want to claim a land, like what we are seeing in the northeast, where we're having all this, herdsmen coming in. You just want to claim lands and all that. Then we need every, legal way to stop you. So I think the foundation
kind of helped me, because I feel like you also found the middle ground of all of this, because the two key words in your advocacy that I wrote down is migrant and invasion. Like what? Like, bro, what is going on? Like, wait, migrant, immigration, invasion. Let me balance this out. I think I would be considered as, if we follow what you're saying, I'll be considered a migrant.
Yeah.
Because in Abuja, because my entire life, I was born there. My entire life is Abuja. If I tried to go and relocate to Port Harcourt, I would find it difficult to leave, because my entire structure.
Where you're from.
Where I'm from. Where I'm from really is like
your state of origin.
Yeah, my state of origin, because when somebody asks me, who are you and where are you from? I say Nigeria. I'm a Nigerian. Shikena. Because my father is from River State. My father is from there. I'm not my father. Yeah, legally, you are where your parents are from, but I'm not my father. I was born in Warri, right? That the hospital wasn't worried. The next day, they brought me back to Abuja. The next day, they brought me back to Abuja. So
now you can claim Warri and Abuja.
Well,
I can't really. My mom is from Warri.
Okay.
My mom is from Delta State, right? My dad is from River State.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, if you really want to ask me where I'm from, call, like, it's Abuja. Because that's all I know. Water. Fire can boil water, they can also burn the house. So we understand that there are two sides.
Yeah,
precisely.
There are people who, but that does not also cancel to say, okay, this is outright, like this is a no completely. Because we can't say that there are also people, like Inka said, that have lived their entire life. Yes. All we need to do is to be able to put a structure in place that would be able to identify the right people that can be citizens. But I don't think it's a wrong bill. We could decide to go left to the extreme, which is what you're doing. Just one side of the story, like one side of the possibilities.
I agree with you that structures must be in place, but let's not forget that Nigeria is not 3 languages. It's not even, it's more than 350 tribes.
Well,
so,
I think we need to, get a balance, be able to balance whatever is happening here. Like Inga said, you can't uproot people that have, put their everything in a particular place. Just like Bright has said, he was born and everything has done is in Abuja. But I also want to look at it the other way. How does the law define an indigene? We have citizenship. We have indigeneship. The Constitution defines who is a citizen, but does not define who is an indigene. So we need to decide, and probably that is where the steps and conditions that Yinka talked about, who is an indigene. Because even if we start tracing all the way back to centuries, those people that were there centuries ago came from somewhere. So everybody came from somewhere. In many instances.
Yeah.
So the fact that you've been there for 400 years does not mean that there were people that have been there for 500 years.
That were there before you.
That were there before you.
Right.
So we need to put in place, a way of being able to allow people have a sense of belonging where they have belonged to all their lives.
This is, like I said earlier, it's nuanced, it's complicated, and it's also it can be very personal as well, because I was born in Lagos. I've done almost getting to 40 years in Lagos, right? So it's almost like Lagos is what I know.
That's what you
right? Indigene and citizenship, you rightly spoke my mind. There are two things that Nigerians need to sit down and decide, also because of our peculiarity. Like you said, 350-something languages. It's not child's play, right? So there is a lot that needs to be done. There's a lot that needs to be said. But at the core of doing all that is humanity. And also understanding that we are supposed to be first Nigerians. This is not taking away your roots. I'm an Igbo person, I don't play with it. Regardless of the fact that I have lived here, grown up here, I speak Yoruba, I speak Igbo, But at the core of it, I'm Igbo at heart, right? So we're not saying take away that. What Governor Hope Uzodinma, in fact, I didn't think in my life that I would be supporting one politician. But what he's saying, I don't think, of course, he's calling for bloodshed. No, he definitely won't be doing that, even if he won't be doing that, right? So we need to really sit down and also think of identity. Because we've talked of indigenous, we've talked of citizenship. If I was born in Lagos, I've done everything in Lagos, I have registered even now. See, if Lagos State government has opportunity to give people, they'll probably give me first than some people. Because I've registered under LASHRA.
All right, it's a difficult conversation, but a conversation that we must have as a nation. Some want to reap where they haven't sown or even invested in the process of germination. And this goes against the laws of nature and also could be a recipe for injustice. This conversation we must have.
Funke, the scales are already lopsided. A society where justice serves the rich and the poor are victimized for speaking out is evidence that he who pays the piper dictates the tune. In today's Nigeria, access to justice is fast becoming a privilege of the rich and powerful, while the average citizen is expected to respect your elders, calm down, and suffer in silence. I have followed and watched with utter disgust as law enforcement in Nigeria turned a deaf ear to the cries of hundreds of Nigerians regarding real estate scams. Yet Scott Iguma, who dared to speak, was arrested, vilified, and charged to court. PWAN Group, a real estate company, was accused of land fraud and selling receipts instead of actual land. Instead of these allegations triggering a public investigation, Scott was arrested. 3 days in police custody, 10 counts charges, all for raising his voice on Instagram. In an interview, the acting group MD of PWAN, Julius Oyedemi, gave a confusing and incoherent account of what had transpired between himself, Scott, and the Nigerian police force. After the interview, he allegedly went on to try to intimidate and harass one of the journalists. This is the behavior of a person who believes himself to be above the law. Let's be clear, Scott should face the law if he lied. But the speed and energy with which the police responded to PWAN's complaints versus how many ordinary Nigerians are ignored when they report real estate fraud is proof of a broken system. The EFCC had invited PWAN following the over 130 petitions submitted through Scott. Instead of cooperating with the investigation, PWAN chose to connive with the Nigerian police force, using intimidation and harassment tactics against Scott to avoid accountability. This is not just about Scott, it's about power, about the weaponization of defamation laws to silence activism, about police being more responsive to corrupt clouds than civic cries, about the growing fear that if you call out the system will come for you. We need laws that protect whistleblowers, not punish them. Institutions that investigate claims, not intimidate claimants. A judiciary that upholds justice, not hierarchy. And we need to remind ourselves again and again and again that no Nigerian is better than another Nigerian. Not because of their title, not because of their connections, and certainly not because of their wallet.
So, the behavior of the police is disgraceful in this context. And it is reflective of how the police has been weaponized against the indigenous, against people, against citizens. I remember...
Against poor citizens, let's even use the right word, not just citizens, because Nepo babies are also citizens.
I remember when we had this issue of, with Dele Farotimi, and I raised an issue about the fact that the police was using this cyber crime, act to go after him. And I said to them that, look, it is Dele today.
Tomorrow it could be you.
Tomorrow it could be you.
Yeah.
Because they use this criminal defamation statutes and all that to be able to weaponize it, to arrest people and prosecute them. In fact, not prosecute them, persecute them. Because that's what they're doing with Scott. All right? They're using that statute. Instead of going, if he truly defamed P-Man, go to the civil court.
Yeah.
go to the civil court, file a defamation suit against him, and let him come to court to say he didn't, and then, you know, prove yourself. But because the intention was not to, you know, seek redress, the intention is to punish. He was denied even a bottle of water for almost 2 days. You will see how criminal and how criminally minded and how wicked the Nigerian police is. But you see, the thing is this: those who want to hide under Cybercrime Act, the law, the police to perpetuate criminality, that is the P1 of the P-man of this world, they are bought market. Because this issue will not go away. We will keep talking about it. We'll keep drawing attention to it. And I said here on this table that I've not met one real estate person that is not somewhat fraudulent. And that's the reality. That's the fact. Everybody knows that.
Let's call it speed is speed. Nigerian police force or Nigerian security system have changed their priority or what they're designed for, which is to protect the lives of every citizen, to protecting the life of the rich from the poor. You will see real estate, the CEOs of real estate companies, and they have convoyed with police officers going around with them. And you ask yourself, knowing clearly that these guys have, like you said, they have a lot of shady deals, that even sometimes the police officer is in the car while the guy is making this utterance and saying, let's do that. They hear it. By the end of the day, poverty has created a system where everybody is compromised. Everybody is compromised. And it all boils down to the fact that people are poor. And when there's a society exists where people cannot afford the basic needs, they start compromising their roles and responsibility towards society. And that's where the Nigerian police force comes into play. Like if you have a problem, like you go to police, you go to Very Dark Man.
Yeah.
You go to Scott. Isn't that, like, what do you think, what society, like, what do you think that is? So the best way now, the only way now to hold people accountable is to bring them in front of the media, in front of the world, to see that you are, that is where we find justice now.
The system is broken. The police is not your first resort when there is a conflict. It tells a lot about the so-called reform of the police in Nigeria and where the priorities of our lawmakers are. Because if citizens are wary of going to the police and would rather go to a fellow citizen for succor and for justice, it tells you that the justice system, there's a question mark on the entire justice system, the chain, even the judiciary is not absolved in this matter. Because as I said earlier about the Victory case, girl who was raped, the judiciary let the abuser go. We're wondering where the DPO who enabled all of that miscarriage of justice is at the moment. He's being sheltered by the police, the authorities. So you see, it comes back to Nigeria being a connection state. It's about who you know. It's about, do you know who I am, number one? Do you know who I know, number two? So you can be a Nigerian, and because you're dealing with somebody who knows somebody in the right places, you will get a miscarriage of justice, and that's what's happening in what you're talking about. And we cannot continue like this. We cannot continue like this. This is the area that the people governing us must look at, whether the executive or the legislative or even the local government. We're still asking that. Perhaps if the local government has more power to, be there for citizens at that level, maybe we'll have less of miscarriage of justice like this.
In the course of my work, I've had several opportunities to train police officers. You ask police officers about the law, they have no idea.
Oh, okay, nah.
Copies of Nigerian Constitution, copies of the law, you cannot get one at a police station.
So what constitutes their training in the police training college exactly?
Good question. Wow. So that is why in the work that we do, when a survivor reports at the police station, the police officer will tell you, when you see the perpetrator, call us. So we have citizens becoming investigators on behalf of the police. And that is what happened here. You know, rather than the police investigating to know what actually happened, they now relied on the information supplied by PWAN. Which is in this case. Yes, in this case. And this is even more tragic when you consider the fact that the police is your first point of contact with the justice system. So when it is destroyed, when it is your confidence in the system is eroded at that level, nothing else works.
That's it.
They've actually charged him to court for cybercrime.
On cybercrime.
So that already assumes that they've done their investigation and they found him chargeable.
Yeah, but the cybercrime, section 24 of that Cybercrime Act, the Court of Appeal judgment, if I'm not mistaken, held it a violation of your right to expression.
Yes.
You know, and the ECOWAS court as well told the Nigerian government to actually amend that section because it is a violation. The issue now is caught today. It might just be you tomorrow.
Exactly.
There you go.
So what do we do?
This one that we've talked now, they might come and carry us.
Let them come now. We are many.
We cannot let impunity prevail. We continue to speak out till we have a society where no Nigerian is better than any Nigerian. Join us again next week, same time, same channel. Till then, it's goodbye from all of us.
Bye-bye.